Price parity has well and truly been smashed out the window. This BMW X1 is over 4 grand cheaper to buy RRP over the Tesla Model Y. But 90% of personal buyers actually finance their car, which means in this case, not only is this going to then settle the price parity argument, you'll find out why this 2024 Tesla Model Y will potentially save you over £13,000 over a 4-year period. So to state the obvious, that figure is eye-wateringly high, and it makes for a high price if you don't actually do your sums beforehand. And I mean, this video is going to be all about transparency of that quoted figure, so if you think I'm wrong on the sums, do call me out in the comment section below. But getting into the specifics, as most personal buyers will finance their vehicle, I financed each vehicle on PCP using their headline promotional deal on each manufacturer's website. Then I've worked out how much the fuel, the electric costs would be using real world mileage figures. Well, the best I could get, so it's actually representative to the average driver like you and me, followed by insurance, tax, servicing and maintenance. And when we total that all up, do you seriously want to buy a new car knowing that the difference in real terms could be over £13,000 after a 4-year period? And this is based on figures and costs here in the UK, but the maths behind the costing will actually be a similar theme around the world, whether you're based in Europe or the US, as you're about to witness in every metric possible here in the UK. The cost analysis just really don't stack up against a petrol car equivalent to the Tesla Model Y in 2024. And by a long shot. I know this video will probably ruffle some feathers of some of the die-hard petrol lovers, and frankly, this video is a good thing if you want to save yourself a few dough. However, if you want to buy a petrol car for any other reason, I'm not going to shame you for it. You simply do you, and I'm happy for you. It will likely cost you more, but at least you know now. But if you want a car that drives like the future, offers tons of practical storage, and saves you thousands along the way, now is a great time to buy a 2024 Tesla Model Y. And there's even more reason, if you're a Brit, to avoid a pesky tax increase, should we say. A time-limited £1,200 saving or more, if my interpretation of the law is correct at least. And I'm no tax expert, I'm more of a car enthusiast, you could say. Therefore, even if you're not considering buying a Tesla EV at this time, before you blind yourself to the potential financial savings by switching to a 2024 Tesla Model Y, you have to check out my breakdown below, because frankly, I don't think many of you are ready to hear the results of each one. So before I kickstart the video, please could you like, subscribe if you haven't already. Yeah, let's get into it. So is the Tesla Model Y rear-wheel drive cheaper to buy than this BMW X1 S-Drive 20i M Sport? No and yes, and you wouldn't judge a book by its front cover, and you wouldn't pick your life partner on looks alone, right? So why would you look at this BMW and Tesla and go, that one's cheaper just by looking at the price tag? If you have £40,000 worth of cash, then yes, of course the BMW is going to be cheaper to buy outright. However, the fact is most people actually finance their vehicle. And here in the UK, around 90% of new car purchases are actually made using PCP finance. Therefore, if you use the manufacturer's advertised rates as of today, you can actually save yourself £100 each month over a 48-month term with the Tesla Model Y. Then there's actually another £233 savings on the deposit alone. So if we add all of that together over the advertised 48-month term, which is generally how long most people will actually own a car before they change it to a new one, you will save an eye-watering £4,933.48 with the Tesla Model Y. And that's mainly driven by the time-limited 0% APR finance offer by Tesla compared to the 5.9% offered by BMW. However, if you think that you could get a better deal by negotiating with a dealer for the BMW, go ahead, try it. But are you going to get a near £5,000 discount on a brand new car? Extreme cases, but it's not likely. But even if we did, this isn't even the lion's share of the savings, as the best is yet to come, which is actually frankly hard to believe. Next cost saving is even greater than the purchase costs, and that being the fuel savings. Now the exact cost is almost impossible to predict. However, I've tried to make this as accurate and as consistent as possible to incorporate real world mileage into the equation. as there are many different factors that will not only affect the efficiency or the fuel consumption of a car for you, such as how much city driving do you do, the highway driving that you do, weather and elevation, just to name a few different points. And that's together with the price that you actually pay for electricity or fuel. Whilst both these cars do have official rated fuel economy figures, day to day it's unlikely over a combination of factors that you're actually going to meet those official rates. Therefore, the combined fuel economy for this petrol-powered BMW here is said to be up to 40.9 miles per gallon based on my research. And so taking that upper end of 40.9 miles per gallon on average and using the average UK fuel rate in England and not the extortionate rates on the motorway services, I worked out this BMW offers a range of around 404 miles from new per tank, and just simulating if you continue to pay today's average cost of £1.45 per litre of petrol, it would cost an eye-watering £6,462 on fuel to cover 40,000 miles. Now, remember that £6,462 figure as we work out the Model Y's equivalent figure. The efficiency for my Model Y works out at just shy of 230 watt-hour miles over a mixture of motorway and city driving, and that equates to around 250 miles worth of real-world range combined. The reality of this is that a vast majority of people can and they will charge their EVs from home, which then also means that most of the mileage will come from home charging, but this is not at the same domestic rate of 22 pence a kilowatt hour for typical households. In fact, it's more like 7 pence per kilowatt hour thanks to a EV-friendly tariff from Octopus, and there'll actually be a link in the bio if you want to take a look at that tariff in question. However, getting back on track, for 40,000 miles, this mileage will cost as little as £644 if you can rely on home charging 100% of the time. In reality, your real-world split may actually work out around 95 to 5 or even 90 to a 10% split in favour of home charging over supercharging. However, to be more representative to real-world conditions, let's do that 90 to 10 ratio split, even if it's on the higher side. Using a Tesla supercharging day rate local to me, which will be higher than home charging, we now get a total of £874 if we did that 90 to 10 split, but frankly I'd expect it to be lower than that, as you'd be surprised at just how little the average driver uses a supercharger when they do have access to home charging. Totaling this all up, this will actually deliver an estimated saving of £5,588, taking our total savings to £10,521, and that's by opting for a Tesla Model Y from the purchasing costs and the fuel to EV comparison costs alone. But taxation, servicing and maintenance, they're still going to have an input in here. Taxation is one that we'll discuss here, and this is an interesting and evolving point as the Model Y is about to see a tax increase when it comes to VED, commonly known as road tax here in the UK. So touching on vehicle exercise duty, which is more known as road tax, and you may actually refer to this as licensing fees in the US or other locations like Australia. So whilst it is a different name globally, we all just know in theory it's effectively just an annual tax you pay for owning a car. And in the past there was an exemption for all EVs, however, that is now going to change to actually match ICE cars at a standard rate of £190 per year, which will then void the actual road tax benefit of owning an EV. But the real sucker here is that the additional rate, known as the expensive car supplement, more commonly known as the luxury car tax, which automatically increases your annual car tax bill by another £410, then giving a total of £600 a year if the list price of your vehicle is then over £40,000. Now this is all supposed to come into play from the 1st of April 2025. And with the Tesla Model Y and the BMW X1 here costing over £40,000, this £600 payment will apply to both vehicles. However, the silver lining in this is how I interpret the luxury car tax element is that if you buy a Tesla Model Y between now and the 31st of March 2025, the additional rate will not apply to the Model Y, as HMRC states this applies to vehicles registered on or after the 1st of April 2025. Now, I could have interpreted that incorrectly, but having checked RAC, they also mirror HMRC's wording, and they actually indicate that vehicles between the 1st of April 2017 and the 31st of March 2025 will be liable to the standard rate. But the next point, referring to the luxury car tax element, is for cars registered on or after the 1st of April 2025, and that's no April Fool's joke. If my interpretation is correct, and again, feel free to drop your opinion in the comments below, is that this creates a buying opportunity if you want a 2024 Tesla Model Y without the luxury car tax. If you do over a 4-year period and the first year remaining free, the road tax bill over 4 years will actually equate to £570 for the Tesla Model Y. This BMW X1 with a list price of over £40,000, you will pay the £600 rate from after the first year rate of £270. Therefore, I make the total £2,070, which now makes the total savings £12,021 so far. And I told you not to judge a book by its front cover, didn't I? So before we wrap up the estimated total vehicle costs and why it matters, let's discuss the other ownership costs, being insurance, servicing and maintenance to round up the costs. Looking at insurance, the quote I got for my Model Y compared to the BMW X1 was honestly negligible in my research. If multiplied the premiums to cover all 4 years, there's a £212 difference in the Model Y's favour. So make that £53 difference a year. However, insurance is so different for each individual, it is an ever-changing landscape, so this one is up for interpretation for sure. But ultimately, this is the best estimate I can provide for this exercise. Servicing and maintenance then go hand in hand, and the fundamentals of a Tesla EV is that it's made up of thousands of less parts, and so with less mechanical breakpoints, that's less friction between components and less wear and tear, and that's less time in the garage and more time on the road. Even better yet, when it comes to servicing, Tesla are so confident in the reliability of its vehicles that they insist on servicing it on a as-needed basis, so no more annual mandatory visits at a dealership. However, there is still a small list of items of service recommendations that you can do from home, such as topping up your washer fluid and swapping your cabin filters, advised by Tesla, that still need to be completed. But that definitely beats heading down to my local dealership for an annual service. So with no mandatory servicing visits, your costs will be zero compared to 3 BMW services at £900 if you use a servicing plan. Maintenance, however, is something that will also come into play here. However, I do not know what the recommended maintenance beyond the servicing plan for the BMW is over a 4-year span. But one thing I can say with confidence is that it's likely to cost a lot more than the Tesla Model Y over a 4-year period, especially if you're at a dealership too. So to conclude, our grand total prediction hits at £13,133 difference in owning this Model Y over the BMW X1. And I think if you're in the market for a new car, if you do your own figures and they actually match mine, or they come out similar to mine, you can confidently say that the X1, is it worth that extra amount over a 4-year period? And if so, at least you know what you're getting into. But if you've just realised that the cost difference would be this big, and this is news to you, has this now made you seriously consider buying a Tesla Model Y? And if you are UK based, do you agree on my VED interpretation? And would that influence you buying a Tesla Model Y before the 1st of April 2025? And if you're keen on waiting for a refresh Model Y, then I actually did a cheeky video the other week on why I think that's actually a bad idea. And I'll pop that on the screen for you now if you're actually interested in knowing more. So honestly, what did you guys think? Were you surprised with the outcome? Did you disagree with my figures? Let me know in the comment section below. If you've not done so already, please do hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share the video with any friends or family that may find the video beneficial. You folks have been great, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.